Sponsored by Gillette, the best a man can get.
Welcome into First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That's Bart Scott. In for Chris Carter. Brian Westbrook is here with us.
Chocolate
Nick
drop.
Wright, you know Nick. Chocolate drop.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you as well, right?
He was going to come up with something.
That's my dog.
Great to have you here, both of you. Lots to get to today. Rumors and reports were out there that the Cowboys were close to wrapping up contract talks with Ezekiel Elliott as recently as, 15 hours ago? But Yahoo's Charles Robinson is reporting the opposite now, that the team is, quote, frustrated with the latest exchange with Zeke's camp. So with week one now just 6 days away, with the Cowboys set to face off against the Giants, we go back to the drawing board. Brian Westbrook, who needs a deal more here, Ezekiel Elliott or the Dallas Cowboys?
I think the truth probably is they need each other. But when you're talking about a team that has one of the best running backs in the league, the Dallas Cowboys need Ezekiel Elliott. The truth is this. Every team in the league goes out of their way to try to establish their identity every single season. The Dallas Cowboys, for the last 3 seasons, their identity has been run the football down your throat, run, and then pass the ball just a bit. The only teams in the NFL that don't need that type of identity, a running identity, is a team with a great quarterback play, dominant quarterback play. And we have not seen that yet. We haven't seen Dak Prescott be that dominant quarterback that the Dallas Cowboys want him to be, that they expect him to be with the new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. I think that Dak is going to be better. Can he be dominant enough to make up for what they're going to lose in Zeke if he doesn't come back pretty soon? I'm not sure he's there yet.
Ezekiel Elliott's their best offensive player. He's their best defensive player because he controls the flow of the game. He limits the possessions. Dallas Cowboys has led the league in time of possession since Dak has been in the league almost. Since Ezekiel has been in the league. And he's a tremendous pass catcher of the ball as well. So you take that element out, then that puts more on everybody else on your team. Understanding that you have, a couple of easy opponents the first couple of games, but things get harder at the end. And it's important that within the NFC that you win your division, because it's not a guarantee that you're going to get that wild card, because the NFC is deep. Right. We know the NFC South with Carolina.
3 good teams. South and North both have 3 viable playoff contenders.
Right, so it's no guarantee that if you don't win the division, we know that Philadelphia is a handful as well. So it's important that they get him in there. And it's not so much the best thing about Zeke that I appreciate the most as a former blitzing linebacker is his ability to pass protect. And we've seen Pollard early in this season, already in the preseason, have some hiccups, and Dak Prescott is your second most important player because he touches the ball every play. And if he can't pass protect, then he can't stay upright, then Dak is going to start selling balls over the middle.
So here's the reason why, to me, it's very clear the Cowboys need to get a deal done more than Zeke does. There's no world that exists where Zeke does not eventually get his money. Now, it could be a difference of about 10% between whatever Zeke's asking for, what the Cowboys' last best offer is. So for Zeke, that's real money. Of course, it's maybe $1 million, $1.5 million per year, maybe up to $5, $6 million guaranteed. But for Zeke, this thing ends with him becoming, at worst, the second highest paid running back in the history of football. The Cowboys side of it is, the difference is when Zeke gets there, are you 0-0? Are you 0-1? Are you 1-2? Is your 2019 season where the Cowboys looked at their 2018 season, looked at free agency in the draft and said, you know what? We're going to be judicious with our picks, especially because we've just traded away a first for Amari Cooper. We're going to be judicious with our money. We're going to spend a little bit on Randall Cobb. We're going to spend a little bit on Robert Quinn. We're going to bring back Jason Witten. But for the most part, we think the team we had last year, particularly the second half of last year, is good enough. A year more of Dak progressing, hopefully a full year of Dak and Amari together, good enough to not only make the playoffs, but make a run potentially to the Super Bowl. None of that is realistic without Ezekiel Elliott. And I would argue none of that's realistic without winning the division. I don't think Dak Prescott can go on the road and win 3 straight road games, 3 straight playoff games. That's what you have to do as a wild card team. You're going to be on the road every round of the playoffs. So it starts with winning the division. So if you start off giving a game away because you're 0-1 because you lost to the Giants, which you shouldn't have, and I'm not saying the Cowboys can't beat the Giants without Zeke, but their chances go down substantially. Well, in the NFL, man, people know this, obviously. It ain't baseball. It's not a series you can throw away. This is an enormous part of your season immediately. Back-to-back divisional games where you are favored, where you should win. To go into those games with a hand tied behind your back because your best player's not out there is enormously risky. So who needs to get a deal done quickly? The Cowboys. Because Zeke, chilling in Cabo, is getting paid at some point no matter what. What position are the Cowboys in when he finally shows up?
Well, he's not going to be ready to play. I mean, he'll go out there and play. To me, you're not giving Zeke 25 carries, his usual 25 carries when he comes right back. That would be foolish.
Does it depend when he comes back this week?
Well, I mean,
is there a day you need him signed by? Otherwise, he's not playing in that first game.
Probably by Tuesday or Wednesday. You know, tomorrow or the next day. Because at the end of the day, he already knows the plays. He's going to run the football, hand him the ball, and let him go. To me, I would be concerned about his conditioning. I would also be concerned. My first year, I played in San Francisco. I went in there in the middle of camp. I played the first preseason game, which was a week later. Pulled my hamstring right away.
Soft tissue.
It just happens right away, especially for running backs. And if you pull your hamstring early on in the season, you're not back for it. You're over. So at that point, and so you don't want to lose that type of leverage. To me, the other thought is this: Jason Garrett should be pounding on that Jerry Jones's door, saying, "Get my guy back there."
No extension.
All the guys on that football team, on that roster, have went into this season saying we have a legitimate chance of winning the NFC East and potentially competing for the Super Bowl. We can't compete without 20.
I just want to follow up with one quick thing. My apologies. You mentioned about his workload when he first comes in. So if he signs at the end of this week, none of us, if he signs Friday, none of us think he'll play week 1. Yeah. But then you're saying, having played the spot, that even then in week 2, he's on a pitch count.
I would be.
Right.
If I'm Jason Garrett,
so now you're talking about so now you're talking about week 3, maybe week 4, before you get, even if you get signed this week, before you get the Ezekiel Elliott we're used to seeing, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, you can't risk losing him for 4 or 5 weeks. You can't risk that. That's the biggest thing. You put him on a pitch count early just to bring him back slowly. But this is why these things should have got done 2 weeks ago. That's the most important thing.
How did we get here? A couple weeks ago, we sat here talking about who was going to get signed first: Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, assuming two of the three. Jalen Smith got signed first. Well, now the season is starting. None of them are signed. We all assumed that the quarterback would be signed before the start of the season, or at least their best player in Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So, like, I think they wanted to get Dak done first, and knowing that they had time for Ezekiel Elliott, and Ezekiel Elliott was like, oh, excuse me, I'm not showing up unless you get my money. Everybody else has been good soldiers. But, you know, it was important for Ezekiel to step out because this is the best leverage that he's going to have, because they have Super Bowl aspirations, and if he didn't speak up now, then he would probably be 3rd or 4th on that list. And, you know, you risk as a running back every time he gets, if he has 400 touches, he's getting hit 400 times, and you don't know by who and how many. You know, the other guys can have plays, and they're not getting injured. So it is important for Ezekiel to stand up and try and get his money now, because if he didn't get it now, he wasn't going to get it. And every time he touches the ball, he risks, you know, getting injured and not being able to get his long-term guarantee.
But the other element, Jenna, to your point about them not getting these deals done with any of these guys, these deals done early, is take what the Eagles did for a moment. I think everyone recognizes the Eagles are a very well-run franchise. Howie Roseman does a wonderful job there. I think when a lot of us first saw Carson Wentz, $32 million a year, all that money, wow, a guy that hasn't completed a whole season. Howie Roseman saw what the quarterback market was becoming,
where it was going,
and said, listen, they obviously think they have a Super Bowl contending team this year. Think Wentz can be an MVP candidate this year. If we wait, does that $32 million become $38 million? Yeah. Does that keep going up? The Cowboys, I argued they should wait a full year on Dak. It doesn't look like they're going to do that. But the Cowboys have waited. They also waited on Amari. And guess what happened while they're waiting on Amari? Michael Thomas gets, resets the wide receiver market.
Right.
Julio's about to reset it again. There's going to be more quarterbacks signed as well, but potentially before Dak's there. And now all of a sudden, we looked at the reports that Dak wants north of $35 million as insane. Well, let's see what the market is. Like, I wouldn't pay.
Mahomes get paid.
Right, I wouldn't pay Dak. And again, you might say, well, Amari Cooper's not going to get Julio money. Fine. But I guarantee you, Amari Cooper thinks he should get Michael Thomas money. And so this is what happens here. Like, they waited on DeMarcus Lawrence, and now they waited a year. Franchise tag and wait a year. You can wait and get more information. I think that is smart in a lot of cases. But there are the teams that go early. If you're right, you get your guy way cheaper than if you wait and make him prove it.
Eagles.
It's a risk the Rams are running.
Yeah.
The Rams are saying, Goff, go prove it to us. If he has a great year, if they go back to the Super Bowl, that's going to be a $37, $38 million a year player when Wentz, who went one pick after him, just went for 32.
Hurt him with Gurley, though.
Yeah, well,
So that's the risk you make.
The other part about the thing, and I think you're making a great point, is that if Zeke is not there early on, and let's say Dak just goes out and has a great season, that 35 number goes up a little bit higher. You have the opportunity to pay your running back, pay him a couple bucks. You're going to need him anyway. You've already admitted that you need him for the playoffs. So to me, that loses leverage right there. I think Jerry Jones misplayed his hand totally. You have to pay your running back, get your best player in camp, and then allow the other guys who are already there, allow them to play it out if that's what you want to do.
Who are the first couple games? It
goes Giants at Washington, home for Miami. It's the softest 3-game stretch of their schedule.
Yep.
Then week 4, you're at New Orleans. Week 5, you're home for Green Bay. You got to be 3-0 at a worst-case scenario 2-1.
I don't think that Giants game is a guaranteed win for them.
I
don't think anyone does.
And any road divisional game, which is week 2 at Washington, you can get beat.
Right.
And they're not going to be starting their rookie yet. So Washington, I think one of the reasons we think they're going to be bad is because Haskins is going to come in at some point, rookie growing pains. Your guy, Case Keenum, has shown he can win a couple games in this league. He's going to be the starter in week 2. Like they're playing a dangerous game.
And if you're going to put Zeke on a pitch count, then you want to get him in there, especially before that 4th game this
Got to get him stretched.
All right, take a break. Coming up, does Jadeveon Clowney give the Seahawks the edge over the Rams? Clowney is his guy. That's next on First Things First.